Hey everybody, welcome back to the Anyway Whatever podcast. I am your host Mike Fisher, and today's guests are Gabby Chaos and Drea Dahl from the band The Venomous Pinks out of Phoenix, Arizona. I recorded it a little bit different than I normally do because it was two guests instead of just a regular face-to-face. So my audio is going to be a little bit different than it normally is. I think it sounds fine. It's just I usually have more control over my personal audio. So, this was a great interview. I don't know these two ladies very well in real life, so it was cool to get to know them while we were recording. I've done work for their band, and I'm a fan of their band, so I was happy that they took the time to come on. They have their own podcast, a couple of them, and we talk a little bit about their podcast as well. And we had a good time shooting the shit. And if you listen to the podcast version, wherever it is you listen, please give us a 5-star review and subscribe. That stuff is very, very helpful in helping me continue to do the show. If you are watching the YouTube version, please subscribe and like the episode. You can hit the little bell to get updates once you've subscribed. And please comment anywhere it is that you get this podcast or the YouTube channel. Please feel free to comment, add your 2 cents about the episode, and share it with people you think will actually be interested in what I got going on. So I won't hold you up any longer. I'll get you to the episode right on the other side of this. Hey everybody, welcome back. I'm your host Mike Fisher, and this is the Anyway Whatever podcast. Today's guests are Drea and Gabby from the Venomous Pinks, as well as from the Sound Sisters podcast. And then as we were chit-chatting on the way in, they let me know that they had another podcast. And what was that one?
Grave Sisters.
That's awesome. What do you guys talk about on there? Like supernatural stuff, yeah.
Ghost, alien, Sasquatch. If it's weird, we talk about it.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm gonna have to go check that out. I was excited. I listened to your other podcast, and so I'm familiar with what you guys do, and we all know each other from the music scene. And actually, I know Drea. I know Gabby through Drea and their band, the Venomous Pinks, and I know Drea because I designed the logo for her high school punk band. My doll, like it must have been like 15 years ago, probably now.
Shh, it wasn't that long ago, Mike.
Well, it makes me way older than it makes you, so trust me, I'm taking a bigger hit on that.
Yeah, no, it was my first band's logo. I think I found you on MySpace, I think.
It may have been, if I had to guess, I'd say you found me on the AZ Punk website.
Okay.
Because I was doing a lot of stuff for Malt Soda Records at that point, and so they were Arizona based at the time, and so I'm pretty sure that's really how I got into doing so much stuff for all the Arizona bands, is just through Malt Soda.
Oh, that's sick! I didn't know that. That's awesome.
I mean, I'd say I've done like 80% of all of the artwork that was ever been on any release from Malt Soda. Going way back to, I created the logo, like he came to me and I created the logo when he started the label 20 years ago. So yeah. And we still work together. I still talk to Scooter and we still work together on stuff. He just had a release come out that he wanted me to do. And it was something that was better suited to a different artist than myself. So I passed it on to a friend of mine and it turned out way better than I could have ever done it.
Man, hearing Malt Soda like throws me back to that era of like AZ Punk days and like being a baby. And I can see the Malt Soda logo like in my mind. Like,
yeah.
Damn, that was just like a flashback for real.
Gabby, are you originally a Phoenix area person too, or did you move there, or what's your situation with that?
Here from Mexico. I'm from Mexico.
Okay.
I moved here. How long have I been here? 20 23 years ago or 24. I've lost count, but I've lived here way more than in Mexico.
Right.
I moved here in '98.
Okay. And so you went straight to the Phoenix area. You've been in Arizona the whole time you've been in the States.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. And then what other bands have you been before you were in Venomous Pinks?
Not too many. I was only. It used to be called Lookout Look. It was more like a pop punk band.
Mm-hmm.
And we were doing pretty good in town, and then drama and the bands.
Always.
Yeah, but only that one that got a little bit of recognition. But other than that, just playing around.
Yeah, I always kind of sum up what it's like being in a band to other people who've never had the experiences. It's like trying to be in a relationship with like 3 or 4 other people at the same time, because it's way more than a friendship, and it's a little bit less than like romance, but you get all the drama from both of those experiences, and it's a management situation in human emotions. There's no way around that.
I know, and that band, it was all dudes too, and I was like the leader / chick, and of course I didn't agree with half of what they said because they were wrong, and I was right.
Right, that's fair.
But yeah, so.
Andrea, did you do anything after My Doll, or is this like, what did you go straight from that into Venomous Pinks?
So I was My Doll, and then I was in another band called the Dames, and then once those kind of fizzled out, that's when I got to like the Venomous Pinks point of my life, and that was like, I think 8 or 9 years ago at this point.
Oh wow, I didn't know you guys had been doing that for so long.
Yeah. So I just texted Gabby earlier. I was like, how long have we been together? Like, because Facebook memories pop up and it's showing me like 2012, and I'm like, have we really been together this long?
My longest relationship.
Yeah, it's crazy. So yeah, I know it was just like the high school thing, and then that was just a joke around, and then we got to the Pinks, and that's where we are now. So
yeah, that's great. You guys are a really good band, and you've come on strong, I think, in the last couple years. Like, you guys are kind of everywhere the last couple years, which is great because I think you guys deserve it. You're a good band, and you're a band that I actually listen to in my own spare time.
Oh, thank you. Thanks, man. That's awesome.
Yeah. I know you guys have been doing like a lot of music videos lately, and stuff like that, and I think that all that kind of stuff helps.
It's you know what, like when we talked about what our next step was, it was like, we're going to do single and music video, and then 6 weeks later, single, music video, because people's attention spans today are just so short.
Yeah.
So short. Like, if it doesn't happen in the first 10 seconds, like, people are just tap, 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 tap,
Right.
So that's just kind of the game plan that we've had.
Speaking of which, I promised you could do your plugs up front, and then we didn't do it. Why don't you give out your social media plugs before the mosquitoes of attention span fly away?
So if you're listening to us right now on this podcast, go over to Facebook and check out the Venomous Pinks. We're on Spotify, the Venomous Pinks, iTunes, all of that. YouTube, we've got a bunch of new music videos. Go check them out. If you're into listening to podcasts, obviously, since you're tuning in right now, go to Spotify, type in Sound Sisters. You'll find Gabby and I's podcast there. And that's where you can find the Grave Sister podcast, where we talk about ghost, Sasquatch, tarot readings, all of that fun stuff. And then we've got interviews up there with a bunch of the Bad Cop girls, Chris Jerry, who does all the Milo drawings, different artists. So yeah, you can go check us out there.
Awesome. Yeah, I was going through your guys' podcast list the other day, and I saw that you had Chris Sherry, and I was like, whoa, that's a good get. That dude, by all accounts, super nice guy.
Yeah, he is. He's awesome. It's crazy. We'll see him around at shows, and we're like, oh shit, that's Chris Sherry. And like, to him, he's like, hey guys, like, he's just so cool.
Yeah. Yeah, super. I have the distinction of being able of saying that I actually did a parody album cover of one of his pieces. I did the Mijo Goes to Junior College Manic Hispanic cover that has the Cholo version of Milo on it.
Oh,
Dude,
that's
amazing.
rad.
Yeah,
That's
that was
actually
fun.
I always wanted to get that one tattooed, so that's awesome to know that you ate
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, that's one of the weird things about my art career is like I do all this work and I'm one of those people who's like I constantly churn stuff out and I never really sit around and admire myself for very long before I'm on to the next thing. And so things go out into the world and then I forget all about them. And that was one of those things that like it popped up like 4 or 5 years ago and I hadn't even thought of it. And I was like, oh, that's right. I did a Manic Hispanic cover. I totally forgot about that.
Damn, that's super cool.
Yeah, I was on tour with my last band in Europe, and we were in the red light district in Amsterdam. So we went over 2 days early and stayed in Amsterdam for a couple of days before we headed out on the road. And I just ran into some random guy in the red light district wearing like this exhumed shirt that I designed, and I was like, these things get out into the wild, and I'm like, well, okay, I guess.
Dude, you've done like a lot of rad artwork for some big bands. Does that
Yeah.
still kind of do you ever have like fanboy moments where you're like, oh shit? Like
Like what I just kind of mentioned is where it like occurs to me sometimes when I see this stuff out in the wild and people are wearing it.
yeah.
I'll be like, oh wow, that I did that, and it happens like if I go to shows, I see a lot of stuff. I'm like, oh, I did that patch, I did that. I was when Malt Soda was putting out the Fang records like in the 2000s, they had me redesign the Fang logo. And like just the other day, I saw some woman post a picture of herself on Instagram and she had that patch on her jacket. And I was just like, so it's like one of those things where, I see that stuff every now and then. I'm like, oh yeah, actually I have left a little tiny mark on the world somehow.
That's awesome.
So, your podcast, how long have you guys been doing that?
A little bit over a year or two. A year or two.
I think maybe 2 years, right?
2 years.
I think.
It seems like you guys are pretty consistent with it, though.
We try to be. The whole reason the podcast started was because where we were at in the Venomous Pinks was just kind of stagnant. We were playing local shows here and there, but we weren't like really touring like we are or like we did this past year. And so I think it was Gabby's idea actually to kind of just start this whole podcast media outlet 2 years ago. And so we've tried to like stay consistent with it. The past year it did kind of slow down a little bit for us, and that was only because we got this new drummer and things just kind of like boom, like just went off for us, which was awesome.
Yeah, she seems to have been kind of the catalyst that jump started a lot of the stuff you guys are doing. She's a straight ripper, man. That was a good score for you guys.
I know, we couldn't believe.
Like, you want to be in a band with us? Like, really?
Like, are you sure? We're dorks from Mesa.
She said yes. Okay, no take backs. Like, you said yes, and you can't quit. Like,
yeah. I think like every month we still like reassure ourselves. Like, are you sure? Are you still in?
Do you still like us? Yes or no?
Passing notes in class. Is she local to that area too, or is she commute in to do the band thing, or?
Bay.
She's from the Bay.
Oh wow!
In her words, I'm from the Bay.
Yeah, she's from LA. Well, she lives in LA. But
oh wow! Okay.
She'll say she's not from LA. She's from the Bay. Like she's.
Because those are different things, definitely. I was born and grew up in the Bay, and now I live in LA, just like she does.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, but I'm like super old. I'm super old, so I've been actually in LA for 25 years now. This year,
oh, wow.
I moved down here for work.
Yeah, but no, she commutes. I mean, she takes the bus or she flies when she can. I'll drive. I mean, she's down to make the drive, or we go out there a lot too, which we actually miss LA at the moment.
Yeah, it's been weird not to like be going to LA because usually we're there like every month,
Hmm.
and with the whole quarantine thing, it's just been kind of like I kind of
What
miss
area?
LA.
What area are you guys coming to when you're down here?
So believe it or not, our drummer lives in Watts.
Okay, no, I totally believe it. There's a lot of punks that live down there actually.
Yeah, she was telling us there's like a big punk rock scene, like backyard shows. But so
Yeah.
we'll stay in Watts, and then we've got friends that live closer to the downtown area,
Hmm.
kind of by the Redwood.
Okay.
So we'll be up there. Um, we haven't gone to Disneyland yet though as a band, and I really want to. Like, I'm
Yeah.
a Disney nerd, and Gabby's never been. I really want to go. And like,
Yeah. So I'm an annual pass holder. I try to go. I
ah,
go a lot. You know, I'm an artist, and people always trip out on that, and they're like, "But dude, you like listen to death metal and shit. Like, how are you spending your free time at Disneyland?" And I think uh, A, all I ever wanted to do when I was a little kid is be an animator. And B, I went to animation school and was an animator for like 15 years. And so in general, Disneyland to me is, I know it's a big corporate shill and they just want their hands in your pocket at all times as a corporation. And I totally get that. I'm not blind to that, but it's that Disneyland is a shrine to art. Every single part of Disneyland is artistic, and it down to the smallest little things. And so when I need to refuel, because I just shit out artwork all the time, like nonstop,
right?
and
Yeah.
so when I need to refuel the bank, I can go to Disneyland and like have fun for a day and eat like a dick and you know, just wallow in the art, and it really does a good job of refueling shit for me. So, you know, that's why I like Disneyland so much. And who doesn't like going on rides? It's fun.
Dude, yeah, there's just so much creative aspects in Disneyland, like everything down to God, just how it's decorated, the artwork, everything is so planned. But no, I feel you on that too. Like I totally agree with that. I even started this Haunted Mansion tattoo sleeve. Everyone's
Nice.
like, why'd you get Haunted Mansion? I was like, it's not just a ride to me. It goes down to like the artwork. Um, I don't know. I could go on about that,
And
but I feel this. Yeah,
like the art, the music, you know, the music in that place is in the Haunted Mansion super cool. Like the voiceover stuff's really cool.
yeah.
It's like it's like cruising around inside of a living cartoon. And if you've never been there and done that, you couldn't really understand how cool it is. It's really neat. And I like the fact that it still kind of has like the 50s and, you know, 60s feel to it. So it feels a little dated, but it doesn't feel stupid. It has like a romance to it. And that's what I like about Disneyland in general too, is like, even with all the new like high tech stuff they put in, you still have that old school feel. So it's like a whole experience, you know?
Dude, have you gotten to ride the new Star Wars ride?
I got My wife took me last year for my 50th birthday. That's how old I am. And and they had the Millennium Falcon ride open, but they didn't have the other one open. And so I've been on the Millennium Falcon ride, and then I went back again with my kids, like I swear, like 3 weeks before the pandemic lockdown. And it was like the new Star Wars ride was open, but they were only taking so many they were only taking so many riders a day, and you had
Yeah,
to line up before it opened, and before the park even opened, all the reservations for the day were gone. So it's going to be a couple years till I get on that one, I'm guessing.
for sure. I was out there in January too, and it was just like, well, all the passes are gone for today, and I'm like, what? But I've watched it on YouTube, and it looks rad. Like,
Yeah, the Millennium Falcon ride is really cool. I'm kind of famous for not being super into Star Wars stuff, and even I was like super impressed just with that whole Galaxy's Edge and the Millennium Falcon ride. They're so well done that, you know, you even taking that whole Star Wars license out of it, it's super cool. It's really cool.
It's just Disney. I mean, I don't know. Yeah, the first time walking through that actual area, you know, I was like so amazed at all the details, and I was like, "Oh shit, there's a droid of oh!" I think at one point C-3PO was like taking pictures and stuff. I was like, "Oh my god, like this is so awesome." I nerded out. I'm a nerd, so like,
Yeah,
yeah, I
no,
was
I
like,
get
ah.
it. A lot of us who are like super into like, you know, culture things, like we nerd out on a lot of different aspects of it. It's, you know, it's not just like nerding out on punk rock or whatever. Like we'll always find other stuff to glom onto too. Like I was talking about my toy collection is ridiculous, and in particular I collect die cast toy cars like Hot Wheels, and I've just got so many of them, it's ridiculous. So yeah, I get it, I get all that. You got, yeah, Gabby, you got to go as soon as as soon as they can open back up.
Yes.
I heard that the Shanghai, China Disneyland, they're starting to do like distancing opening, which
I think I heard that too. Um, we'll see how that goes, though. That's all I can say. Like,
I'm actually supposed to be there right now, like this week, with my best friend who I grew up with. Him and his wife were down from Northern California, and I was supposed to be at Disneyland like this week with them, and I'm like,
Oh man.
but
that's
I'm here doing this, which is even crazier. Like I've been recording like 2 guests a day for like the last like 3 weeks,
Wow.
like 4 times 4 times a week, and then on some of the other off days I've been doing like 1 person a day, because I just want to get like a whole batch of people done so I can just drop like 6 episodes and then start doing 2 a week for, you know, however long this thing runs its course. I suspect because I like doing it, I'll keep doing it pretty regular for the foreseeable future.
dude, that's like super impressive.
Yeah.
two guests a day.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I just got off like 2 hours before. I've been scheduling like noon and 5 because it gives me. I got, you guys can probably relate to this, but the thing I did not anticipate with this is how exhausted I am after I've spent an hour talking to somebody.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Your voice is all dry. You're like, fuck, I need some water. Like, it does take a lot out of you. I don't think that's the one thing people don't realize is like, it's a lot of work.
It is a lot of work,
and it's a lot of work after too.
It's that whole thing about like, you know, being on, like you have to kind of be on, and that just and you have to kind of stay on for the whole time. And you know, you guys know what that's like from being on stage, and you know, it's not the same amount of physical exertion as it is being on stage, but it's still like you have to be engaged with with the audience and with whoever it is that you're speaking to, and that stuff, it takes it out of you, man.
Are you like researching and all that stuff too? Like, okay, what are they doing right now? Like,
I'm really lucky that I have my wife involved, and because she's in the TV and movie business, and there's no productions going on right now. And she was supposed to start a movie like 2 weeks after this whole thing started, and that was going to go till like September. So that was like a big hit. And then have you ever heard of that TV show Stumptown?
no.
I think it's on ABC.
Okay.
It's like about this like bisexual detective in Portland. It's kind of like,
sounds about right.
It's based on like some graphic novel, so it's got a comic book base, and she's a hair person, so she's like the key hairstylist on that show, and so that's supposed to start back up at some point. But I mean, who knows when they're going to be able to get things back in production? Because I mean, you know, the hair and makeup department, you're 12 inches away from everybody all day, and they're trying to figure out how they're going to be able to pull that off, you know, still. So she is home right now. And after I did some test episodes, this all started because I wanted to find a reason to start doing it. So I asked a bunch of my friends to give me movies to watch and then do a movie review of, and I could film it, and I'd learn how to do the audio and the video. And I did a handful of those, and my wife was watching them, and she's like, I think you might be able to be good at this, dude. And I'm like, you know me, I like to run my mouth. So if I can find a reason to do it. And then, so she jumped right on board, and she's kind of like the producer, you know, she like helps me with all the scheduling. If I need to find images, like I'll put up like your guys' logo in the video and stuff. When I'm doing the final edit, she'll listen to the rough edit, and she'll go and she'll make time notes on all of the episodes, and you need this image here and you need this image there. And she's kind of handling research on the back end stuff, like how do we get this thing broadcast, and what's the best broadcasting site? How do you do it on YouTube so that you can get seen? So she's handling all that kind of stuff on the back end, and I'm just doing like kind of the creative side of it on this side, you know. So it's been super awesome.
Hell yeah, you got your own in-house producer. That's great. It makes life a little bit easier on you.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And she's, you know, I am extremely fortunate that I actually, you know, not only do I love my wife, but I actually really like and respect my wife. So it's actually really cool to be able to work with her on a project, because, you know, we're always, you know, missing each other when she's working on productions, because she'll work like 16-hour days, and I'll see her for like 30 minutes for 6 months out of the year. So it's just been nice to have her around and have something we can work on when we're interacting. And, you know, we have a good time together. We always enjoy our time together, you know. So this has been great for me.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So what is it? You work at a guitar company, Gabby, in your normal life?
Yep, I work for Fender. So.
Oh, awesome. What do you?
Office.
Oh, cool. What do you do for them?
I do international sales.
Oh, wow.
So at the moment, international is closed. So I'm in furlough right now until the rest of the world opens up. But yeah, I sell gear.
And you've been there for a little bit?
It'll be 6 years this December.
Wow, that's awesome. Congratulations. For a guitar player, that's got to be pretty amazing gig to have, right?
Oh yeah, it's everything that you dream of and think of. Guitars everywhere, broken guitars everywhere. Just everybody just talks about guitars all day.
That's
so
amazing.
It can still be corporate, but you know, it's guitars. So
yeah, right.
Too bad.
Right. Do you get to kind of, is it like casual dress attire because it's like a rock and roll guitar company?
Yeah. Well, it used to be a little bit more strict. Like you have to wear jeans. But it's Arizona, so enough people complain that you can wear shorts now. So
awesome.
Wow. Okay.
Well, I guess I understand the flip-flop thing, because like heavy gear, you might drop it on your foot. But
yeah, that's a safety issue.
Yeah, but it's like we're in cubicles, you know, like whatever. But
you could stub your toe.
I know. Yeah, but it's totally casual now. So
that's awesome. That is super awesome. What do you do for your day gig, Drea?
So I have an essential job, as they say. It's in banking. So I'm a relationship manager. So I deal a lot with the same clients every day, managing their financial portfolio.
Okay.
Very corporate. very
right.
corporate. But I've been there a long time too. So it's pretty family oriented where I'm at. My mom works at the same place. Lots of nepotism going on there. Lots of different families, but it's cool. They're very understanding with my touring schedule.
Yeah, that's a legit thing is as a musician who's actually trying to tour and do things. It's like having a job where you work and a place that you work at that is understanding of that is like, I mean, a lot of people just end up in those jobs that are disposable because they know they're not going to be there long enough, you know. So it's cool that you have a spot that you can come and go back to.
Yeah, I'm pretty lucky to have a boss that's understanding and is like asking me how band life is going. You know, I think it makes a difference in why I've been there so long too. So.
Yeah, sure. Yep. I was lucky that when I was in my last band, which is the only band I was ever in that actually did any touring, you know, I was working for myself and I could be gone as long as I wanted. And, you know, if I could just work extra hard for like 2 months before I left so I could build up enough money to tide me over for 6 to 8 weeks while I was gone. You know, so I was fortunate in that respect for sure.
Yeah, just your own boss. I love it.
Yeah. Not only my own boss, but my only employee. And so it's just me and me here by myself all day, every day. And it gets super weird. Like I was saying, like when my wife is on a production, I'll be here by myself, you know, like for 2 or 3 weeks on end without really going anywhere but the grocery store. Or now I play hockey. So I play hockey once a week. But even that, like, I'm not really a jock. So even when I'm like in the locker room getting changed, like I'm not, you know, I'm not part of the guys, you know, I'm not that dude. So, you know, even that's like weird, but it does force me to socialize a little bit. And then other than that, like my next door neighbor is a super cool guy. He was like a touring musician and like a record producer in Hollywood forever. And he's retired now. And he's a really cool dude. So we chat over the fence. You know, he's like my only friend.
He's like your rock and roll Wilson. Remember
Totally.
Wilson through the fence? Yeah.
Totally.
Gabby's a baby. I don't know if you know what that is.
Yeah, it was that guy that did construction or something. Right?
Tim the Toolman Taylor.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah.
I think I saw like the end of it. I was very young, but I remember like reruns on the TV.
You know, speaking of being your own boss, Gabby Chaos has kind of launched her own business and really, you know, has gotten momentum in this whole quarantine.
Yeah, after this I have to go print.
That's right. You're doing the merch company.
I am. It's been kicking off crazy. I mean, a lot of bands aren't being able to tour, but they're able to sell online. So I've been getting a lot of inquiries about that, and it's been busy. It's been crazy.
That's amazing.
And I started it so that I could eventually be my own boss and not have to rely on corporate or because I only have so much paid time off, you know.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I mean, you'd think Fender would be at least a little bit understanding of that, but I mean, you know, they're a business; they got to do it.
Right.
I guess.
Yeah, my boss is totally cool. So like, we literally had this whole year planned out, all of my ever amount of PTO, and I went over it and I told my boss like, hey, like, is it cool if I take a few weeks not unpaid? She's like, oh yeah, just let me know. Like, it's cool.
That's excellent.
Yeah.
What's the name of your merch company? You can give a shout out if you want.
Yeah, it's called Chaos Merch, like Gabby Chaos, but it's spelled with a KAOS, merch.com. And you can find it anywhere that you can find the Venomous Pinks and Sound Sisters.
That's awesome. So you're actually screen printing stuff yourself? You bought like a print setup and you're doing all that kind of stuff. Are you like, is it like, do you offer design services and stuff like that? Or is it just printing and merch creation stuff?
Right now if you have the design ready to go, let's do it. I've been getting a lot of inquiries about that too, designs, but I'm still home, but I don't have that much time.
Right.
So you are a designer. So
hey, Gabby, have you met Mike?
I like literally my entire life is designing merchandise. Imagine that.
Right. All right.
But you know what? That's been non-existent too because nobody's on tour. I had 2 designs that were supposed to go out with Rancid on this coming up summer when they're going out with
Dropkick.
Yes. The running joke of this show is that while I'm talking to people, if I have to try to pull a name up from out of nowhere, I'm a blank slate. So of all the things, like I can't even remember the Dropkick Murphys. Imagine that. So I was supposed to have a couple for Rancid, for this summer. And then there was a couple metal things that I had going and then everything just ground to a halt. So, what are you going to do?
Right.
I know that I was talking to a woman who is a friend of mine who is also in the merch design business, and her episode's amazing. She's one of those people that, like, when I think I'm good at my job, like I look at her work and I'm like, I'm not. I am not good at my job at all. She's a heavy hitter, and she designs clothes and she makes these amazing like spiked studded like leather jackets that are like completely covered in studs and spikes. When that episode comes out, I'll let you guys know because you're going to want to watch it. She's amazing. She's a very sweet woman, and she's this insanely creative person, and everything she makes is fucking awesome.
Dude, you're awesome too. Don't discredit
Yeah.
No,
yourself.
yeah, I
You
know,
do
I
some
know,
killer stuff
I know.
too.
I've done some things in my career. I know that
Yes.
too. But
Yeah.
you know, it's kind of it as a creative person, and I know you guys are in bands and stuff, so you kind of get it. Whereas like you always find yourself kind of judging yourself against other people in your field,
Yeah.
whether you want to or not, and you hear a song and you're like, God damn it. You get that professional jealousy where you're like, I wish I had written that riff or whatever it is, and I think it's healthy, as long as you don't let it affect how you treat other people. And it's just an internal personal like jealousy thing where you're like, it pushes you to do something better because you heard something amazing or saw something amazing that somebody did. I think as long as you use it to propel yourself to do better in what you're doing and not to knock other people down, I think it's a healthy thing.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that's, it's important as a musician too, like I have that same feeling. I hear a guitar riff and I'm like, God damn it. Like, why didn't I think of that? Or, but it just, yeah, like you said, it pushes you to want to be better and try to write better music, write better lyrics. It's all
Right.
about evolving as an artist and
Right.
Mental attitude.
that PMA.
yeah.
I think that's one of the things that keeps coming up on this show is there's a few reoccurring themes that are kind of have organically been popping up, and one of them is that whole thing of that DIY thing where people who are in the cultures that we're into, art, music, things like that. It almost all of it is comes from a DIY spirit. In particular the underground music scene where like, you guys are a little younger. And so not to at all diminish your guys' efforts, but you guys have benefited a little bit from time. And things like punk music are, they're just part of life now. And when a lot of us old guys, like, you walk down the street with a mohawk and people throw rocks at you, you know what I mean? And like now not to diminish what you guys have done, but the spirit remains the same. People who don't want to wait around for other people to give them permission to do what they want to do. And that's still like the most punk rock thing about punk rock is bands like you guys who are just like, we'll find a way, we'll take that PTO off that we don't have, we'll find jobs that allow us to go on tour. And you guys, you guys deal with making your own videos. Like you have a whole command over your band outside of a label system where like you guys have a look. All of your art and design has a specific look, and you've done a really good job of branding that stuff all on your guys' own. And I appreciate that kind of stuff, that effort.
Thank you.
Thanks for saying that. Yeah, no, that's
he noticed.
Well, yeah, it's my job to notice.
That's awesome. Really appreciate
who is it? Who's the artist who does all of your guys' stuff, like the logo stuff? And it's really nice. It's got a clean, consistent look.
His name is Justin Wise, and he used to live in Phoenix. He resides out of Texas now. Can't recall his company name off the top of my head, but if you Google Justin Wise, it'll come up. Weiss. He was referred to me through a friend, actually. They were like, I was like, dude, I want better artwork for us. I want to make shirts where people see it and they're like, oh fuck, that's rad. I want to buy it. I want to wear that. And his name got thrown to me, and I checked his stuff out, and I was like, oh, this is rad. So I hit him with this idea. At the time, we were doing a music video for a song called "Do You Wanna," which was loosely based off of Psycho, Bates Motel. So I told him, hey dude, like I want a shirt that kind of looks like that. And he came out with this rad design. I think I posted it the other day on Facebook. And after that, I just throw him ideas. I'm like, hey, I want this on a shirt. And he'll just come back to me and he's like, what do you think of this? And I'm like, that's perfect. Like, yeah, let's do that. So he's been our go-to for the last couple of years now.
Yeah, it shows that you guys have a really good, consistent look, and that's always good for a band to have that like kind of pro feel to it. The bands that are successful, I mean, you can almost always pinpoint things like that, like like Iron Maiden stuff always looks like Iron Maiden stuff,
Yeah.
or like, and so yeah, I think that was like a super big win for you guys to get that dude on board. You got yourself a drummer, you got yourself a look. Look at you guys go.
Oh man, we got a good little package here going. So, which unfortunately, with this coronavirus and kind of halting all of our plans for the year, I'll be honest. Like I don't know. I don't think we'll play LA until next year.
Yeah, I don't think anybody's going to do anything until next year, which sucks. We had tickets to Psycho Las Vegas, and that got canceled, and it sucks. For people who like to go out to see live music, this is pretty terrible, and for people who make live music, even worse.
Yeah, dude, I don't know why I did this to myself, but I looked at punk rock bowling videos the other day, and we're supposed to be going there in like 2 weeks, and it just kind of hurt. I was like, "Fuck, man!" Like,
were you guys supposed to play this year?
Yeah. Well, we were playing the Punk Rock Saves Lives, Hogs and Heifers weekend.
What a coincidence. It's a funny coincidence because I had Adam, who's on the board of directors for Punk Rock Saves Lives. I interviewed him like 4 days ago.
Oh, shit. Okay. Wait, Gabby, aren't you on the board too?
Yeah.
So do you know Adam Siegel from The Faction?
I don't think I've ever like talked to him. I mainly talked to Rob. But whenever he needs something, he hits me up. But I haven't. No, yeah. I don't know him personally.
Yeah, me and Adam have known each other since we were kids. So I got to have him on, and it was super cool. That episode's going to be great because I didn't really realize what Punk Rock Saves Lives was until I spoke to him, and we talked about it on the podcast, and I was like, oh wow, it made me super proud of him. And now it makes me super proud of you too, that you're like actually doing something, with it can be super easy to just be in the scene and like not contribute,
Right.
And so the fact that you're part of that's super amazing, Gabby. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
That's awesome. So no more touring for the foreseeable future. I think it's awesome that you guys are down in LA all the time, and I never know. Although I have to admit, I never venture much outside of the art studio. Whenever my friends are always in town, you didn't even call me, and then I realized that it wouldn't matter if they did anyway.
What part of LA are you in?
I'm in the Valley. I'm out in the San Fernando Valley.
Okay.
And I'm way out in the West Valley. There's like no venues out here. There used to be a place called the Cobalt Cafe, and it was an all ages place that was open forever. And when my sons were growing up, my sons are like your guys' age. All of my kids are like your guys' age. My middle son was like super into punk rock and stuff, so I would like just take him over to this little all ages venue, and like on a Friday night, and there'd be like 10 local punk rock bands, and so I'd go over there and watch bands with them and stuff, and that was like, it was a cool thing. I was able to do it, but they closed that place, and so there ain't shit out here now.
Is that where the Corbin Bowl is out there?
I'm pretty close to Corbin Bowl because you guys played there, and I was gonna go see you guys, and then there was some family thing came up, and I wasn't able to go to it. But yeah, I'm probably 4 or 5 miles from Corbin Bowl.
Oh, super close.
Yeah,
pretty close. Corbin Bowl, for anybody who's listening and is in the San Fernando Valley or Los Angeles, they have a punk rock bowling league that is actually one of the other brothers, Stern Brothers, who do Punk Rock Bowling Festival in Vegas. He runs a punk rock bowling league out of Corbin Bowl. And then I believe that's how you guys ended up playing there, right? Or did you just get booked at the bar there?
Well, it was from somebody that does shows out there. But they do have ties to punk rock bowling, but it's not like one of the brothers or anything.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because a lot of they have a Sunday bowling league. It's called LA Gutter Punks. And they always have, like, every Sunday night they have bands. They have bands. It's like, there's a bunch of teams. There's a league. There's a whole league going, and it's like you go out on Sunday nights and have a couple drinks, bowl, and they'll have a bunch of bands playing, and it's
Yeah,
actually
I think
pretty cool.
I think I saw the dwarves played like right before quarantine or whatever.
Oh, I did
Corbin
not know.
Bowl. At Corbin Bowl.
That's amazing. I
That
did
was
not know
hilarious.
that.
Fuck, they probably fucked this place up. Like all the fans, like
Right.
that's cool. Like
Yeah.
when can you say, oh yeah, I saw the dwarves at a bowling alley? Like,
Right. Well, I'm old,
Rad.
so I got to see a lot of the bands like that in a lot of fucking weird places. Trust me. Like what?
Yeah, that's what the lucky thing about LA is you guys get all like these rad bands that just fucking. But you know what? The one thing I did notice about LA is that all the rad bands will play on Friday or Saturday, so it's like a competition of, okay, like, shit, what show do I go to? Because adolescents are here. Oh, Agent Orange playing here. Oh, the dwarves are playing here. Like, I'd be a little conflicted if I lived out there. Not gonna lie.
Right. And then I listen to a lot of metal too, so it's kind of even worse for me because there'll be like a good metal show and there'll be a good punk show, and and you got to decide. You do have to make some decisions. It could be worse, right?
Yeah.
Like you could go to like the Redwood and see some good bands, or you could go 2 miles down the road to the Regent and see like bigger bands. But that's all. I lived down there by Dodger Stadium, probably 5 miles from where the Redwood is, for like 7 or 8 years, and then when we decided we wanted to buy a house, we could not afford a house down there, so we had to come all the way out here to the San Fernando Valley, where it's just like suburbia. But one of the reasons we did that is that my art studio was in East Hollywood, which is like one of the last like hard ghettos in the actual Hollywood area. And I don't mean that in a derogatory way. I just mean that it still has heavy gang activity. And I was always fine because I grew up around that stuff. So I know how to act in a neighborhood that has a heavy gang presence. But it was the space I was in sucked. It was just too small. I'd outgrown it. And so we were like, maybe it's time to like buy a house and, convert the garage into an art studio. So I have like a place that can actually like make some money doing this, where I'm not fighting my environment,
We're worried about is my studio gonna get broken into, or
It was
whatever.
a constant concern. I would show up at the studio and there'd be gang graffiti on the front door of my space, and I'd like at least like once a month I'd have to paint it over. And I was lucky that it was weird because it was like a small apartment complex, and shout out to anybody who ever went to my old East Hollywood art studio, and thank you for taking your life in your hands to come and do business with me there. But it was like a 2-car garage that was part of like a 5-unit apartment complex, like super small little complex. And the woman who owned the building had turned the garage into like 2 art spaces. So there was like no bathroom or anything. It was just a garage that had been split in half and had walls up. And so the 2 women who lived in the apartments directly next door, like literally like from me to this microphone away from the wall of my studio, I became friends with them right away. Because again, I grew up in rough neighborhoods, and so I know you befriend people quickly so that they help look out for your shit. Because that's the way life works, right? Is if you are nice to people, they want to also be nice to you most of the time. So I befriended the 2 women in the apartments next to me, and they couldn't stand each other, but they both loved me, and they and they would totally look out, like they would chase people off if they were trying to get into my space, for sure.
Was that apartment okay? So East Hollywood, was that by Jumbo's?
Not too far from Jumbo's, actually, like a mile or 2.
Yeah. Okay.
I was right up. That's the second time Jumbo's has been brought up on this podcast, by the way. A friend of mine I had on was in a band called the Trans Sex Pistols, and they were a Sex Pistols cover band that dressed up in drag, and they're amazing. and they played at Jumbo's once, and me and my
What?
friend Dan talked about what that was like.
Dude, Jumbo's is great. And I only mentioned, okay, listeners, I only mentioned Jumbo's because I know like it's in East Hollywood, so I'm not from there, but that is somewhere I've been, so that's kind of like like, oh,
For
I know
anybody
it's
who
in there.
listens who hasn't heard that other episode, Jumbo's Clown Room is like it's like a bikini bar. It's not a fully nude strip club. So you can like sit down and get a beer, and it's just like it's a fun time if you're looking for just some place to hang out. I've never
Yeah.
been much of a strip club guy myself, but Jumbo's is one of those places that whenever I was out with all the dudes and they're like, let's go strip club, I'm like, no, let's just go to Jumbo's. Jumbo's is actually fun. And when Lemmy was alive, there was a good chance you were going to walk in there and Lemmy was going to be sitting at the bar, and you could have a drink with Lemmy.
That's rad.
Wow.
And they have a really great jukebox.
Yeah, I mean, it's just
They
a
do.
rock and roll bar. I mean, it's just really a rock and roll bar with
Yeah.
bikini girls on stage. And it was like another one of those things where like, Courtney Love used to dance there before,
Yep.
like a million years ago. And a lot of
Yeah.
women who started out dancing there ended up going on to a lot bigger things. But yeah, so I wasn't too far from Jumbo's. My
Okay.
spot was like, I was like literally right next to the 101 freeway. So,
Okay.
like I was on the other side of the freeway wall, and it was, there was like a pass through, like just down the street. There was a pass through that went, it was like a little tunnel that went underneath the 101 freeway. And it was some serious gangster activity going on at that tunnelway for sure. It was like one of those places, like I always had to park my car in a place where I could visually see it, because there was no way it was safe over there. But like everything else between West Hollywood and downtown Los Angeles, it's all getting gentrified like heavily. And so it's not long until East Hollywood's just as safe as all the other places in between, which is weird.
Oh, for sure. That's what it's kind of funny you mentioned that, because we kind of give Cassie a hard time about living in Watts right now, just because it hasn't been. It's getting better, but
yeah, I mean, Watts is super famous worldwide for being a rough neighborhood. I mean, they've made a few dozen movies about how rough Watts is.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't really familiar with it, and she was kind of like, "Don't Google Grape Street Gang," and of course I'm gonna Google it, and I'm like, "Oh shit, like this is where we're staying."
Right.
But
Grape Street Gang is actually a part of the movie Menace to Society. I think that's the gang in that movie, is at Grape Street.
oh shit, I'm gonna have to go back and rewatch that movie.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I'm
but-
pretty sure that's what it is.
We've been pretty safe there. The only crazy thing that's happened is I think it was like we played a show, we went back to the house. It was probably like 1:30, 2 a.m. We just hear like a fucking clip go off, like pop 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 pop, like nothing.
Yeah.
And the roommates were like, "Oh yeah," and close the door. Probably like 5 minutes later, you hear the police
Yeah.
zooming by or whatever, and they were
I was
like,
like,
"Oh yeah,
Yeah.
We like run, hide, like.
what do we do?"
Pretty close, and he's like, "Oh no!" Just slams the door and like continue watching the TV. I was
Yeah.
like, okay.
That's that's a little bit of LA, and it's that reminds me of a funny story. That my last band, we did a European tour, and that was the last thing I did with them. I was in a band called DIS, Destroyed in Seconds, like a D beat crust band, and we did a whole European tour, and our last show was at Obscene Extreme Festival in Czech Republic, and that's like a 4-day festival. And so we were just there the entire time, and you get passes. It is one of the most generous festivals I've ever played in my entire life, and the promoters just like, you get passes for the entire time, you get food tickets for the entire time, you get drink tickets for the entire time, not just like the day you play.
Yeah.
And so, we were just hanging out for like 4 days. And I met these guys in this band called Livsted from Norway. They're an amazing band. You go check them out for sure. They're called Livsted. And we were back in the back area drinking and shooting the shit. And they're like, they're like, oh, you live in Los Angeles, you know, like that show, that TV show, The Shield is like our favorite TV show. And I was like, oh, wow. Yeah, that's, that was all shot in the neighborhood that I live in Echo Park. And they were like, really? And I was like, yeah. And they're like, is it really that dangerous? And I'm like, yeah, a little bit, you know, because it still was at the time.
Yeah.
And they're like, I was like, you know, it's not really a big deal. Like I usually just keep, you know, I keep like, if I have to go out to my car on the back street, because I lived on this back alley that had, it had some gangster shit going on back there for a long time. And I've got a good dozen stories about Echo Park. There was still like a murder per year on my street when I lived in Echo Park. And now it's just like all like white yuppies. Like within like 7 years, it just completely went from gangster to, you know, hipster.
Yeah, I heard Echo Park is really like changed, like super gentrified now.
Yeah,
Like
but
not like it was back in the day. Like, you know,
it was still rough when we moved in there. It was still like, you know. So I was telling him like, yeah, like sometimes if my car's parked way down the street, like, and I have to go out, you know, at like 10 or 11 to get something out of my car, like, you know, I'll just throw a pocket knife in my pocket, you know, like just like a small blade or something. And he's like, what? And I was like, yeah, that's like, you know, and he's like, how do you live like that? And I'm like, dude, the rest of the world isn't Norway, man. Like, he's like, we would never accept that in Norway. And I'm like, yeah, it's just how we live, you know. I thought it was funny because they were like,
they couldn't fathom
really
the
like
idea
that
of
TV show. And I was like, yeah, it's kind of still really like that TV show. And I'm actually still friends with those dudes online. And, you know, that's one of the great things about being in the music scene, especially in the underground portions of it, is you go out and you tour and you play shows and bands come to your town. And then you just end up with this massive group of friends from all over the world. And I'm really good at staying in touch with people online, and I'm really terrible about staying in touch with people in real life. So yeah, I still talk to all those dudes.
That's like we were supposed to go to Belgium this year and England.
Yeah.
And that was like one of the things I was kind of looking forward to, just talking to, you know, people from another country. And
yeah, you know, Belgium and England were like the two places we never toured. Like we toured all the way around Belgium. We never actually managed to get in there. And we were a band that played at, you know, we played punk squats and we played, you know, like squat venues and, you know, all that kind of shit. So everything was like, you know, you stayed in the building because it was just like a giant, massive apartment building that was just a giant squat. And then they'd have a venue in the bottom. You'd play, you'd get to stay, they'd feed you. So we were just like, you know, it was like a month, 6 weeks of vegan food at a time. And I'm a pretty tidy person in general. So it was a little rough for me. Some of those places were punk squats. And we played this one place in Vienna, and I think this is just a bridge too far for me. I'm sleeping in the van. I can't do it. And the guy who was our driver in Europe, Luke, shout out to Luke Van Gestel. He was like, oh, wow, you think this is bad. Good thing we didn't book you any shows in Belgium, because the Belgium squats would make you lose your mind. I was like, okay.
Yeah, I think they were gonna put us up in a hostel.
The hostels are fine. The hostels are fine. You stay in a punk house there, and it's gonna make you're gonna have a different experience than staying in a punk house in America. Let me tell you.
Well, so you toured all over Europe. Did you see any ghosts or have anything weird happen?
I'm gonna disappoint you greatly right now when I tell you that I do not believe in the supernatural, and I've never had a supernatural experience of any kind in my life.
But when you do, you'll believe.
Maybe. I'm 50. If I haven't run into a ghost in 50 years, I don't know.
You know, I'm not disappointed. I'm actually the skeptical one on that show.
Oh, good. Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
They'll send me stuff and I'm looking at it, I'm like, no, that's fake. Nope, it's fake. No, try again.
Right. That's awesome. Now I really have to listen to it, because if you went all the way to the trouble of having a skeptic on your supernatural show, I'll buy all the way in on that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's the ones where there's nobody to check anybody's claims that like I got about 2 minutes of time for that.
No, yeah.
Yeah.
You gotta have a balance. You got the believers and you gotta have the skeptical. You gotta have a little bit of both, you know?
Right.
Because not
Totally.
everybody's gonna believe what you know, that they're ghosts or aliens. So you gotta
That's
always have
awesome.
that one guy.
And what's the name of that podcast again for people?
It's called Grave Sisters.
Grave Sisters. So it's like an offshoot of the Sound Sisters.
Yeah. So if you go to Sound Sisters on Spotify or iTunes, you'll see it in there. We decided just to like push them out under Sound Sisters.
Oh, so it's in the same. So it's not its own channel. It's in the Sound
Right.
Sisters podcast list. Oh, okay, awesome. So I'll just go through and I'll definitely start looking for those episodes because that's great. I like it. I mean, if anything made podcasts in the last 5 years a viable use of a person's time, it is definitely the true crime and supernatural podcast stuff. Do you guys listen to that show Lore?
No, what is that one?
Lore is a fantastic podcast. They actually turned it into a Netflix series because it's so good. And this guy just does small episodes where he talks about different like wives' tales or old stories like about like Salem witches or like just supernatural type of stuff. And he's incredibly good at it. And then they actually ended up making a Netflix show that they do dramatizations of all of his lore stories. And it's really good. If you guys are in quarantine, you need something to binge on, go check out Lore. And then the podcast is available on Spotify too. It's a really good. He's very thorough.
Yeah, I'm looking at it now. I'll check it out. Yeah.
You guys will love it. It's like one of
Okay.
those like super professional, highly produced
Yeah.
podcasts. And you know, I'm just trying to figure it out as I go along. I don't think there's going to be anything highly produced and professional about what I'm doing for a little while still.
Hey, that's like Grave or Sound Sisters too. It's like, we're gonna hit record and let's see what happens. But we've had some great guests.
Yeah, one of the things that's been great about this is just like these my recording sessions with people always end up just sounding like me sitting around talking with my friends.
Yeah.
And so it's very I'm not trying to brag about what I've done because I haven't put it out and I have no idea how people are going to respond to it. But for me, when I'm listening back to it, when my wife's giving me my edit list, it's really good. It sounds really natural, like just people talking. And I listen to podcasts where it's like, I'm going to ask you a question and then the person is going to answer it. And it just doesn't work that way at all. And I wasn't sure how this was going to go with any of my guests. And, with a lot of people, I send out a form and it's like, just punch in all your information. So I have a guide to go through. And I've started like not even using that, just letting it kind of run the way it's going to run, let the conversation go where the conversation's going to go. And I think it's better for it that way.
I feel like that's a good approach to it. I mean, just have maybe like what we do is we'll have like just a couple of bullet points of like things we do want to talk to them about.
Yeah.
And then if we get to it, we get to it. If we don't, no big deal. Usually, it goes wherever it wants to. And
right.
We always kind of preface this like, hey, we're going to talk to you about your music or we're going to talk to you about your art. By the way, we might go into like a ghost category or a UFO category. Is that cool? And usually people are like, yeah, let's do it. Chris Sherry was the only one that was kind of like, I don't really believe in ghosts, so I don't want to talk about that. We're like, okay, artist. No big deal. Artists.
I'm way more inclined to be interested in talking about UFO stuff than I am ghost stuff, because that seems like I've never experienced anything in that realm. Like I've never seen a UFO or any of that type of thing. But I do think that if this planet is the only planet with any kind of life on it, then it's an amazing waste of space. and there has to be other stuff out there. Now, whether or not it has actually gotten to us, has been able to visit us, is extremely debatable. Although in quarantine, I guess the United States government decided they were going to show us UFO videos straight from their archives, and everybody seemed to just like gloss that over. Like it was
Totally.
a flip in the news. Everybody's so busy with everything else, and it was like, oh yeah, UFOs, no biggie. Literally the United States government just admitted that they've experienced UFO stuff, and everybody's like, yeah.
NBD, no big deal.
Totally. So I thought personally, I thought that was exciting. It just, I guess, I'm a super logical person, and so one of the things, the logical part of it for my problem has always been any culture that had technology advanced enough to come here would be so far ahead of us. It would be like us trying to speak to ants. It would be like what they wouldn't even bother with us. It would be like, oh, those things are over there, and you would be no way to have any kind of meaningful communication because we're so far away from being able to get to any place that could potentially have life that they'd be just way past us. And although that does end up playing into a lot of the lore where it's like, yeah, they just come here to study us, but how much time would they spend on that if they were that far advanced? Like, we study ants, but not a lot.
Yeah. Reminds me of a funny meme. It's like the aliens are passing by Earth and they're like, oh, roll up your windows. It's Earth.
Oh, I was just going to say that.
Yeah, they're not quite there yet.
Yeah, no. Earth is that planet where you like lock the doors and keep driving by. Like, no, we're not going there.
Earth is the East LA or the East Hollywood of the universe. For sure. You're gonna get some gang graffiti on your door. And I don't mean to disparage East Hollywood. I do. I don't. I actually really like that neighborhood, and I never had any problems there. It's just it was what it was. But anyway, back to the aliens. I was I think that one of the big things for me was are you guys familiar with Bob Lazar?
Yeah.
The Bob Lazar stuff. I am a Joe Rogan podcast listener. I'm not like a super fan. I'll listen to particular guests that he has, but I didn't find the Netflix Bob Lazar piece to be super compelling, just the way it was produced. But if you listen to Bob Lazar on the Joe Rogan Experience, it's extremely credible. Like I was like, oh, whoa, that's like really credible stuff. So
I think I listened to it. I got to revisit that one. I know Joe. He'll have like some pretty good, like a wide variety, I guess, especially when it comes to like aliens and UFO. But we were talking about was when he had Tom DeLonge on, and he just kind of was like 2 years ago, Gabby.
I think it was last year. Like beginning of last year.
Tom's talking about these videos that were just confirmed.
He's an alien guy, right?
Yeah.
Tom DeLonge is, for people who don't know, is from the band Blink-182.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it felt like Joe Rogan at the time was kind of discrediting him, or. But then
that's fake.
Yeah, and then I don't know. Rogan posted something the other day on Instagram that was kind of like a 180 from what he said. I'm like, dude.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things I like about the Joe Rogan is about him as a podcaster is he doesn't disagree with the people he has on his show. If he disagrees with somebody, he will say that to them, and he will try to make them understand why he doesn't agree with them. And a lot of people are they glad hand everybody. It's like, oh, okay, whatever. But he'll be like, no, wait a minute. And he doesn't just have people on that he agrees with. He has a wide range of guests on. And I don't always like or agree with the people that are on that show, but he's a very, very good host. He's become a very good host. He records the podcast like 2 miles from here. He's just like he has a little office in one of those 2-story strip mall things. He rents an office space in there, and he lives like just in the kind of neighborhood over from me in the nice part. we're in the regular people part, and he's in this area that's called Bell Canyon, and it's where the rich people live. I believe that.
He's in that TV/UFC part, money part.
If people had any kind of idea how much money he made just off of Fear Factor, they would lose their minds. Not on top of the fact that he was on a network TV show, not on top of the fact that he's one of the biggest touring comedians in the world, and not on top of the fact that he has the most popular podcast on earth.
Yeah.
Because I remember listening to him talk about Fear Factor, and he did the first run of shows, and he was like, "Oh, I'm never doing that again," and they canceled the show. And when they decided to bring it back, they were like, "Well, you want to come back?" And he's like, "Absolutely not." And they're like, "Well, how much would it take to get you back on Fear Factor?" And he's like, and he said he gave him like the fuck you price, like the number he thought they would never pay. And he's like, "Hey, look, if you get to the point in your life when you have fuck you money and you don't take advantage of it once in a while, you're totally blowing it." So we gave him this outrageous number, and they're like, "Okay." And he was like, "Holy shit." So, and then, my wife is in the TV and movie industry, so I have a little bit of behind the scenes knowledge. And, when TV shows go into syndication, those people on TV shows and syndicated TV shows that get into reruns, they make a lot of money. And the thing with Joe Rogan is he was the only cast member on that show. So all the syndication money was his. So I can't imagine what he's worth. It's got to be hundreds of millions of dollars for sure. Like he's got Seinfeld money.
Oh, at least.
Yeah.
But he's good at what he does. So good for him,
Yeah. I don't I don't always agree with him. And right now he's so huge that it's really easy for people to pile on and hate him and stuff. And, I'm not one of those people, but I try not to shit on other people's creative endeavors, no matter what they are, whether I like what somebody's doing or not. Like, I'm just happy people are making things, like there's a whole entire world of people who just consume things, and people who take the time to make things are the people that I want in my universe all the time.
Hell yeah.
Well, and hopefully this whole quarantine thing has people appreciating, creatives and musicians more.
Yeah.
Life's been pretty hard without being able to go do that stuff.
Yeah, I love that the bands that are doing like the quarantine jam sessions. Those have been some of my favorite parts of this quarantine. Is just like the guys from Anthrax have been doing a lot of really cool jam sessions with like in different configurations, and they did like one for Stormtroopers of Death where they got the original guys back and they played some songs, and then they bring in different people and they play different cover songs. And I don't know if you've seen any of those, but they're so good.
I think Judas Priest is playing tomorrow, or Friday. They're doing a live concert. Yeah, I know.
Look that up because I will sit down and watch that.
I know.
Yeah, I'm one of those people. Do you guys listen to much metal, or are you guys pretty much punk rock?
I listen to kind of like the earlier stuff. I'm not really into newer metal. But yeah, I have appreciation for it, like Black Sabbath and old Metallica. Well,
Sure.
Metallica,
Nah, pretty much just
Anthrax. Yeah.
Where'd you go? You disappeared.
I'm a ghost now.
The skeptic turned into a ghost.
Gabby, do you listen to metal or no?
Not a lot.
Yeah.
Like just whatever comes on, but I can't like say I'm like.
Yeah, no, I totally get that. I have a bunch of friends who are one or the other, and I have a bunch of friends who are a little bit of both. And I'm like, I was always so excited about anything that was like from or in the underground. That I was pretty lucky that I grew up in the 80s, and I got to experience like the original hardcore punk bands, almost all of them, in a live setting. And then I was also lucky enough to see the Metallicas and the Exoduses and the Anthraxes show up around the same time. And then I was lucky enough to see all the bands that were in the middle of that, like, the Corrosion of Conformity and the Accused and bands like that. And I liked all of it. And I wanted to go to all of those shows and be a part of all of those things. And so metal ended up being a pretty easy pickup for me. And, I never, I like bands like the classics, like you, like, Judas Priest, Iron Maiden, but I'm super, super, super into like stoner rock and doom metal.
Yeah.
I listen to that almost as much as I listen to anything in my life. And so, that's where a lot of my time gets spent, for sure.
It's good though to have like an eclectic taste of music. I'm sure it helps with your art too.
If you've ever listened to my weekly Spotify playlist, you will find as wide a range of music as you could possibly want in my 2-hour playlist. Every week I put up, I make a 2-hour playlist of whatever it is I listen to in the studio while I was working. And it's always like, it's hip hop, it's jazz, it's funk, it's, you might get some female singer songwriters in there. You might get some bands from the 70s. You might get stoner rock. You might get hardcore punk. You never know. It'll be 2 hours of something, and you're going to learn something no matter what. Every week you listen to it, you're going to hear some band you've never heard of, because I'm always looking for new types of musical expression, because I'm just a fan of music. And so, the only two kinds of music that I really don't ever go down is I don't like reggae music. I don't like it at all. And I can only barely tolerate some ska for the exact same reason. It's just something about it just doesn't ring with me. And I'm not a country music person. I do a lot of work for country music artists, because for some reason I'm really good at it. I cannot explain it. But a friend of mine who is she owns a record label in Nashville, or outside of Nashville, and a bunch of graphic design and stuff. I end up shouting her out every goddamn episode. Shout out to Connie Collinsworth and La Honda Records. She manages this new batch of young country guys who sound like 60s and 70s country guys. I mean,
really?
they sound like authentic Johnny Cash's and Willie Nelson's and guys like that. And she's turned me on to, like, I've listened to more country music in the last 2 years than I probably listened to in my entire life. And she's an artist named Coulter Wall, who's on her label, and or who she manages. He's going to be a massive, huge music star. It's, as a matter of fact, like, he was supposed to have one of his songs in a Dodge truck commercial for the last Super Bowl. That's like where he's at with it. And I mean, if you listen to him, you would never know his records weren't from like the 1970s. Like, he could tour with Johnny Cash and all those dudes. And then other guys, Vincent Neil Emerson, and she has me do merch for those guys quite a bit. And I love it. And those guys are they're talented. She's got an ear for something special in that genre of music. And if she can get me to like something that's in the country genre, that's about as good a fucking get as you're gonna get.
What's the record label called?
It's La Honda Records. And her production company, her management and production company is called Riding High Productions. And everybody on earth should follow her, Riding High Productions, on Instagram, because she makes patches. Cool. This patch actually is one of her patches that you can get through her Riding High. She makes enamel pins and, just all these cool, like, old school looking patches. She is about the best design sense and design eye of anybody I've ever known in the design industry. She's a special person, and we are very, very good. We're like family, and we've been friends for a long time. She's somebody I consider to be a really good friend, and she's gonna be on here eventually.
Yeah, I'll check it out. Vincent Neil Emerson? Is that
yeah. If you don't like Vincent Neil Emerson, I don't think you can be friends with me. And I don't like country music.
You're doing a lot of country design. So as an artist, are you playing the songs and trying to get a real feel of what the artist is, their sound, before you actually put the pen, or however you do it?
Yeah. With the big merch companies that I work with, I'll end up doing merch for every different type of artists, and for them it's always the big country arena acts. It's like I can never remember anybody's name when I have to. Like, there's like Georgia Florida line, or Florida Georgia line, or all those Red Cup
Red, yeah. Red Solo Cup.
All
Yeah,
the
yeah,
Red Solo Cup country bands.
yeah.
Yeah, I have to listen to that stuff so I have some kind of idea what I'm doing. And even if I don't necessarily like it, that's fine. Like I did shirts for Rihanna, and Rihanna's fine, but I don't listen to Rihanna's music.
Wait, what? How
No
do
big
you
deal.
like? Who hits you up for Rihanna? Like her people or like?
I'm the way the big merchandise companies work. They're kind of like record labels now,
Okay.
where bands will sell their merch rights to a merchandising company, like they're signing a record deal, and then the merch company handles all of the production and everything for. So, for instance, their Live Nation, yeah, that's where she's headed. Like Live Nation for a long time had a merch division where they would sign bands to merch deals, and then they'd get assigned an art director, and the art director would build a little pool of graphic designers like me. And when a band was going to go out on tour, or when they needed merch for the retail stores like Target or whatever, for the holidays, the band says, this is the stuff we need. And the art director gets the projects together, and he just doles it out to people like me. Like, okay, I need 3 designs for Carrie Underwood, and this is the song that she's trying to push at the time. And so it's like she had a song called like Black Cadillac or something.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've got to do designs around that. And I did stuff for the Black Eyed Peas, and like I don't listen to the Black Eyed Peas.
Yeah.
So but I think one of the things that's been able to help me being successful in that area is that I can take the like kind of underground rock and feel that I've kind of developed over the last 35 years, and I can apply it to bands that don't necessarily have that look, and they love it because it gives them something different. They're not getting the same thing that they got from every other designer that ever turned something in for them. So, when I do something for Rihanna, it does not going to look like any other Rihanna t-shirts. And so she's like, yes, that's cool. People want that because it does look different,
Yeah.
And, I've been really fortunate. I mean, I've gotten to do work I got to do work for Paul McCartney. He did like these special shows at the MGM in Vegas, and I got to do a poster and a t-shirt design for Paul McCartney, which is, it doesn't get a whole lot bigger than that.
That's badass.
Yeah, and I'm not a Beatles
Yeah.
fan either. I'm not one of those Beatles guys. Although of all the Beatles stuff, I do like the McCartney stuff and the Harrison stuff a lot. I figured out in the last couple of years I'm just not a John Lennon fan. And so if John Lennon's if he's not singing on a Beatles song, I actually can tolerate it.
Well, that guy, he was an asshole, really.
I mean,
he wrote good songs, but he was an ass.
That's
Sorry.
there's a lot of rock stars that fit in that mold, especially from that era. Like it was just a totally different time to be alive and to be a human being. And I think expectations of people's behavior have changed so much, and for the better.
Yeah.
I think people being held accountable for not being good to other people is not ever going to be a problem with me.
For sure, I agree.
So yeah, it's been a trip to do stuff for huge bands, and I got to do a lot of stuff for bands that like my dad was super into. Like I got to do shirts for Steve Miller, for the Steve Miller band, and that was really cool because I could show my dad, be like, dude, I did these shirts for the Steve Miller band, and he would be like, oh, that's so cool. Like he would get super excited,
Yeah.
And bands that I actually personally like, I got to do some stuff for Leonard Skinner, and I'm a big Leonard Skinner fan, even though, I'm not a super rednecky type of dude, but, just stuff like that. And then, I'll end up having to do shit for I did so much stuff for Kiss for a while. That was just ridiculous that single thing I turned in for Kiss, they used for 4 years in a row.
Damn.
I'm talking 5 or 6 designs every tour for I got 20 some odd pieces done for Kiss, all the way into shit you could buy at Target. And I got to do stuff for AC/DC, and they're one of my favorite bands ever, also. So as long, sometimes I'd have to do stuff for these country bands I didn't like,
Cash.
but they would totally let me do stuff for these other bands that I did like. But one of my favorite things right now is one of the big merch companies one of the last merch companies I work for. Because one of the things is you have to have an art director that you're in with at one of these companies. And if your guy leaves,
Mhm.
None of the other artists you know are going to give you the name of their guy. And so once someone leaves a company, you're kind of shit out of luck. But I work with a company called Kings Road Merchandise, and
Yeah.
almost every single band that they have a deal with is a band that I like. And in the last year, I got to do stuff for Refused, and Refused is one of my favorite bands ever. And then that's how I got hooked up with the Rancid stuff. I did the 2 tour shirts for the Rancid summer tours last summer, the ones that they were selling at Punk Rock Bowling last year. I designed those 2, and then they liked them enough that they had me do another one for the fall tour, and then they had me doing all the ones again for this coming up year, but nobody's touring right now. So
So like, so how does that work? Like, if Rancid sees the artwork, do they have the final approval of it, or does it go above Rancid?
No, the way it generally works is a band like Rancid will have a management company, and they'll kind of like shoot stuff to their manager. Like, this is the kind of stuff we're looking
Okay.
at. The manager will then contact the rep at the merch company, the art director, and then that guy will get all of us together to do it. Then we submit our designs, and then the manager and the band sit down and look at that stuff, and they go, we want this, we like this, and this. If you change
Yeah.
this to something else or whatever. So it ends up being a committee thing, and then they come back to the AD, and the AD gives it to me, and it's like, oh, they want a black and white version of this color design, or they want a color version of this black and white design, and then it kind of just gets approved from there.
That's so crazy. There's so many hands in the
Yeah.
pot. Like, I'd rather just go to Mike and be like, "Hey, Mike, I want this." Like, what do
Right.
you think? Are you into it?
I really love doing it both ways, but
Yeah.
obviously just working directly with the band it feels like how I got into doing this stuff. It just feels like when I was growing up, and it like my entire world was surrounded by the music scene, and trying to get in with bands to do stuff, and you're like, oh, these guys, like you'd hit them up, like, especially in the early dawn of the internet, in the mid 90s, early 2000s, like I would just spend hours a day just messaging bands online, like, oh, I love your band, I would love to do work for you. And then it just kept building up till I ended up with all these merch companies. But
Yeah.
I still work with individual bands all the time. I just had Matt Harvey from the death metal band Exhumed. I did an episode with him yesterday, and we went over that kind of extensively, like what it's like for him to hire artists, and what it's like for me to be an artist who gets hired by a band like that. And it's really interesting stuff.
Yeah, dude, I'm not gonna lie, I was since we were kind of in a time crunch with our label, I really wanted to see like what you would have come up with for the Todos Unidos single cover.
Yeah,
And so I'm just kind of bummed it didn't, like, the timing of it didn't work out. Like,
yeah, these guys had like hired me, or had me on schedule to do a 7-inch cover for them, and then with all of this COVID stuff and like just busy schedules, it didn't end up happening. But there's going to be a lot more records for you guys, so we'll get one in there.
oh, for sure. This is just the starter of it. So yeah, there'll be more. So
awesome. I think I'm gonna let you guys go get about the rest of your lives. I think I've burned through enough of your day, I think.
well, we have to have you come on Sound Sisters so we can.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Anytime. And if you
Okay.
want to talk about UFOs and aliens on the Grave Sisters, I'm all about that. I'll sit and talk with you for a long time about that.
Okay, cool. Yeah, let's do it.
Awesome. You guys just hit me up sometime for that. And I appreciate your time. It's super nice of you guys to come on. And one of the things that's been super good for me in this isolation time is it's put me face to face, kind of in front of people that I really like and respect. And it's like, I don't get enough FaceTime with my friends. So it's nice to see the two of you and be able to sit and talk for an hour. It means a lot to me as a person, that just to talk to my friends,
Yeah. Thanks for having us on.
You.
Of course,
Yeah.
of course. Anytime. We'll have you back for sure.
Cool.
Yeah, for sure. Let's do it.
Later.
Cool. Bye.